start the recording. Okay. Now we have to declare about global declaration, right? Let us talk about global declarations now. Okay. So what is the meaning of global declarations? Okay. Let's see here. Global declarations. Global declarations. Right, declaration, one thing all of you have to remember is declaration means they always end with semicolon, right? They always end with semicolon. So there are two types of global declaration you will come across with. One is variable declaration, right? Variable declaration. Okay. And function declaration. Function declaration. Okay, function declaration, these are the two things that will come across with. So variable declaration means these are also called as global variable. They are called as global variables. Okay, these are called as global variables, and this is called as function prototype also. This is also called as function prototype. This is also called as function prototype. Now let us discuss about global variable first, right? The first one is global variable. Global variable. Okay. So what is the meaning of global variable? It is a variable, it's a variable declared outside all functions. Declared outside, right, all functions, right? So you can declare the global variable anywhere you want, but the rule is that, right, it must be declared outside all functions. For example, right, I am writing one program here, int main, right? This is a main function, right? Return 0. Okay. Now you can write the global variable right here, int a, or here also. These are called as global variable. The rule says that you can you must declare it outside, right, all the functions. These are called as global, right, variables. These are called as global variables, right? Variable which is declared outside all functions. You can declare it before the main function, after the main function also, right? So according to the definition you will understand that it must be declared outside all functions. Okay, there are certain properties that we need to understand, right? So there are certain properties of global variable that we need to understand, right? So first of all, right, the default value of global variable, see, if I assign int a is equal to 10, the value of a variable a will be 10. If I put 50, the value of a will be 50. But if I don't put any value inside this variable, see, right now I have not stored any value into variable a as well as variable b. So the default value compiler will put into these variables is, right, 0, right? The default value of global variable is 0. So the default value of global variable is 0. Okay. Now, next, another point we need to learn is we can access them. We can access global variables. Global variables anywhere we want. Anywhere means you can access these variables throughout the program. I will show you one example also, right? You can access it inside the main function. If there is another user defined function, you can use it there also. If you want to use it in another file, you can use it in another file also, right? So in short, you need to understand that global variable can be accessed anywhere, not only throughout the program. Some books will mention it as throughout the program, but right, that variable can be accessed anywhere you want, right, from one file to another file also. Now with this statement, you need to understand what is the scope of global variable. So the scope of global variable is, we call it as global, or inside bracket we call it as anywhere, right? Scope means, now you have to tell me, I have declared this variable here, right? Now, right, if I declare that variable in outside all functions, can I access it in main function? Yes, we can access. Can I access it in some user defined functions if they are present? Yes, we can access. Can I access it throughout the program? Yes, you can access anywhere. Can I access it outside that file also? Yes, we can access, right? So that is called as, where all we can use this variable, that is called as a scope. Scope will tell us in which all places we can use the variable. Okay, so these are the basic properties of global variable. Now let me take a small example here, right? Let me take a small example, GDB online compiler. Okay, let us take a small example here. Okay, I'll increase this font size, okay, so that you'll have more clarity. So if I declare the variable here, int a is equal to 10, right? I can use it, right, inside the function also, right? Inside the main function, I'm using that a value for printing. Okay, I'm using a value for printing here, right? So let's execute this and check whether what value it prints. You can see that it is printing a value of a as 10. Now if I don't store any value, if I don't store any value into that variable, let us see what does the a value print. So the default value of a variable is 0, means default value of a global variable is 0. Okay, now if I want to declare this variable below the main function, yes, we can declare it. It is a global variable. There is no rule that we have to declare the variable before the main only. You can declare it anywhere you want, right? You can declare it anywhere you want, right? So now if I execute it, it will print again, right? See, right now it is saying that undeclared variable a, it is not able to recognize. Now all of you tell me one thing here, a is equal to 10, then I will declare int a. Is it valid or invalid? What I'm trying to do in this right space, is it valid or invalid? Is it valid or invalid? First I will write a is equal to 10. After that I will write it as int a semicolon. Is it valid or invalid? Come on guys, you should know it. Can I use any variable without declaring it? We cannot use it, right? We cannot use any variable, right, without declaring it, right? So this is an error. We cannot do it because the rule says that first we need to declare the variable like this, right? We need to declare the variable like this, then you have to use a is equal to 10. Now the question comes is why, correct? Everybody will have this question, sir, why we have to declare it first? Now the reason is, whenever you declare the variable, a memory will be allocated for variable A. If there is a memory, then only we can store a values inside that. If there is no memory, we cannot store a value. So because of that reason, we need to declare the variable first. Are you understanding? Now, if you look at this program, what we have written, see here, when compiler starts executing this program, I am trying to print the value of A, and then I'm declaring the A variable below. Now, because execution will start from main function, correct alva? Isn't that correct? The execution starts from the main function. So, and when it comes to this printf line, it is trying to print A value, but still the variable is not yet declared. So, right, in this situation, there is one more keyword comes into picture, that is called as extern int A. There is one keyword which comes into picture, that is called as extern int A. So what does this extern keyword will do? Right, extern will tell compiler that int A is declared globally in the program. So search for it. Right. So that is the meaning of this. I'll just put it in a comment line, 2 lines. Okay. So are you understanding? When you tell it is externally present. So when compiler encounters with this line, when compiler is executing, when it comes to this line, now compiler will search the whole program. Where is this bloody integer variable A? It will keep searching for that integer variable A. Oh, there it is present. Then it will recognize and it will allow you to print. So now you execute. See, error is gone and it is printing A value as 0. If you put A is equal to 50, it will print that 50. Are you understanding? Are you able to understand? This extern int A, we write it to tell compiler that, buddy, the int A is declared globally somewhere in the program. Go and search it. Are you understanding? This extern keyword is used to tell compiler that, right? This extern keyword is used to tell compiler that the variable is declared globally somewhere. Go and find it. So if you declare your global variables after the function, then you need to write this extern statement if you want to use those variables inside this. Are you getting my point? All of you, please respond. Have you understood or not? If it is not clear, please let me know that also. If you have not understood, I can explain again. Okay. Gavin is clear. Sanjana is clear. Shahina is clear. Right? What about others? Is everybody clear on that? Harshita is clear. Now, just we write that extern statement to tell compiler, buddy, hello compiler, my int A variable is declared somewhere globally in the program. Go and find it. Just to do that, okay, to do that, right, we use that extern keyword. Now I will put this information also into, right, here in the notepad. Okay, I'll just put it in the notepad here so that you can refer it in the later part. Okay, you can refer it in the later part. So this extern used only when global variable is below the function. Okay, if you declare global variable here, then external int a is required to tell compiler. So this is about global variables. If you guys have understood, I'm moving on to the next step. Okay, I'm moving on to the next step. Similarly, right, the function declaration, function declarations, function declarations, another subtopic is function declaration, which is also called as function prototype. There are two names for it. One is a function declaration, another one is function prototype. Now I'll give you a pictorial representation, right? Just to make you guys understand. See, this is a main function. This is my main function. Okay. And this is a user defined function called as add. This will perform the addition of two values. Okay. This is a user function. This is a user function. Okay. Now, if I am calling this function here, add 10 comma 20. So this is called as function call. You are calling a function, means you are using function add. You are using the function add, means just like how we have done it in previous example here, you were using the variable a, but variable was declared below, correct? Variable we were using it first and then the variable was declared, correct? So same situation, if your function is written below and you are using it above, in such situation function prototype is required here. Function prototype is written here. Are you understanding? So this is just a declaration, right? Why do we write this function prototype here? To tell compiler that, right, to tell compiler that there is a function called as add in the program, go and search it. Just like same reason, if you write function definition below here and if you are using that function here, then a prototype is written in this place before the main, right? Before the main. So why do we write it? To tell compiler that there is a function called as add in the program, right? So just like how we tell our parents before going out of house, if you're going out of a house, you will tell your parents that I'm going out, correct? Information, informing. Just like that we will inform the compiler. Okay, this topic will again come in the function topic. That time we will discuss it further. Okay, we will discuss in detail about this during a function topic. Okay, now going for the next one, main function. Main function. Going for the main function. So what is this main function? This is the point where execution of program starts, where execution of program starts, right? This is where the execution of program starts, right? Whenever you execute a program execution will always start from, right, the main function. Now somebody will come and ask me, sir, why whether this will be executed or not? It will be executed. Generally there are two things that we have discussed. One is a compilation, another one is, right, execution. Compilation always starts from the first line. Entire thing will be compiled. Okay, but 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 execution always starts from the main function. You might write hundreds of function, but the execution will always start from the main function, right? Are you understanding this? Right, execution will always start from the main function. Okay, now, okay, after this the next part is there are two ways of writing it, two ways, right, of writing main function. Okay, there are two ways of writing main function. One is, right, int main, right? Okay, if you write int main you will write return 0. Okay, and if you write void main there is no need of writing return 0. Okay, there are these are the two ways how we write our main function. Can you tell me which one is a better way of, or which one is a good way of writing it? Is it int main or void main? Which one is the good method of writing it, int main or void main? Which one is a good method or a better method or the right way to write our programs? Should we use int main or should we use void main? Okay, Srinidhi says that int main, Harshita says int main, so every Gavin also says int main. So what about others? Right, always try to interact more. The more you interact, the more class you will understand the class. Here nobody will scold you if you give me a wrong answer. Okay, so just to give you a little clarity, int main is a better approach. This is the better approach of writing the programs. Always you have to use int main because this follows a better communication between a compiler and operating system, right? So int main is usually known as a better approach. Now why we should not use void main, let us understand. You can use void main, still the program will work, but we don't prefer that. For example, let's say there is a person called as, right, Sangu. There is a person called as Sangu sitting in a his house. Okay, he is sitting in his own, right, house. Now all of a sudden there will be a mother from the kitchen who will shout, this Sango fellow is playing games on a mobile. He is playing games on a mobile. Okay, all of a sudden, right, what will happen here? Right, he is playing game on the mobile phone. Now there is another friend of him, right? Okay, there is another friend of him, okay, called as, right, Tingo. This guy, right, all of a sudden visits his house. I will give you two options. All of a sudden he will visit the Sangu's house and says, surprise, surprise, I came to your house. This is one option, without informing your friend Tingo. First option is he will come to your house without informing. Okay, he will come to your house without informing. Second option is Tingo will give you a call and tell that I am coming on 17th of Jan at this time at, let's say, 7 o'clock, and then he will come to your house. Okay, second option is, right, with informing. Okay, with informing he will come to your house. Okay, now you tell me in which situation you can give a better hospitality for a Tingo. In the first option or in the second option? In which option can you give a better hospitality? You can cook a nice food for him. In which option, right? In which option, right? You can give a better option. Obviously second option, right? Because he's informed you earlier, you can prepare a nice meal for him, right? And you can buy some desserts and all, keep it ready for him. That is exactly right. When the user is using int main, if you write a program using int main, there is something called as return 0 at the end. Now in a machine, if you take a machine, right, the master in a machine or the one who controls the machine is your operating system. Operating system is the one which has a control is in hands, right? This is the one which has a control in his hand, right? Now there is a small part called as compiler. Okay, now compiler wants to execute this program. So what it will do, compiler will borrow the control. It will take a loan of the control. It will borrow the control from the operating system, and it will start executing line by line. Okay, when it comes to this return 0, okay, when the compiler comes to return 0, compiler will send that 0 to the OS. Send 0 to the OS. The moment OS sees that 0, the moment it sees 0 or it receives a 0, it alerts that, right, compiler job is completed. It will understand that the compiler job is completed and I should be ready, right? I should be ready to receive the control back, to receive the control back from the compiler. And when the execution control comes to this closing bracket, then the control is returned. Control is returned back to the OS. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is, if you write int main, in the end you will have return 0. This 0 will be sent to the operating system. The moment OS receives that 0, it will understand that, oh ho, the job of the compiler is ready. Now he will send me back the control. I should be ready to receive that control. Now, now, don't you think there is a proper acknowledgement is happening between these two, right? So proper acknowledgement is happening between compiler and operating system. That is the reason we always prefer using of int main rather than void main. In void main, without telling compiler, you will send the control back to him. We don't know whether operating system is busy or is it free to receive the control. So better approach is always int main. Is everybody clear on? Is everybody Vaishnavi? If audio is not clear, please refresh. My audio is breaking. I don't know. Is it breaking still? Okay, it is not breaking. Okay, right? Gavin and Vaishnavi, please refresh if it is audio is issue. Okay, okay. Gavin and Vaishnavi, please refresh. Okay, okay. Now after the main function, what is remaining here? Next we come across with like local declaration. So we will start with local declaration now. We will start with local declarations. So local declaration, are nothing but local variables. Okay, so what are local variables, right? The variable declared the variable declared inside the function inside the function right function is called local variable the variable which is declared inside a function. It can be main function, it can be user defined function also. So if it is declared within the function, then it is called as local variable. Okay, now let us understand the properties of right local variable. So first property is right first property is default value of a local variable is garbage value garbage value, or it is also called as junk value. These are the values which we don't know what is the value stored inside that memory. We don't know such values. We call them as garbage value or junk value, or values which we don't know, or we can call them as values of previous programs previous programs values or data of previous programs. They are called as garbage value or junk value. Now the second point is right it must be declared it must be declared at the beginning of at the beginning of function. Okay, for example, I'll take an example here. Okay, int main int main opening bracket, I have declared one variable here int x is equal to 10, and then I will declare another variable int y. This is invalid. This is invalid in C language. Okay, but some compilers will give you a flexibility. In C language also they will allow you to declare like this. But according to Dennis Ritchie, the one who developed this language, according to him you cannot declare the variables like this. So the correct way of declaring them is right correct way of declaring them is okay int main opening bracket right int x and int y, and then you make a use of the variables. All the variables must be declared at the beginning of the function only. You have to declare all the variables at the beginning of function only. That is the rule of C language. Are you clear on that part? Okay, so now there is one more point that we need to understand here, that is scope of local variables. Scope means what? If I have a local variable, can I access it outside main function or outside that function? No, we can't. It is only limited to that function. For example, this x variable, you can access it within the main function. Outside main function you can't access. That's the reason we call them as local variables. So what is the scope of local variable? It is local. In bracket we write it as within the block. Within the block, whichever block you declare it, within that block, right, the variable can be accessed. You can't access it outside the right function. Are you clear about right scope, local variables? If you're clear about local variables, then we will continue with next part. Is everybody clear? So I think probably by today only the all boring part will get over. Yes, you can write it, Gavin. Yes, you can write it, Gavin. You can write it. Okay. I'll come to that part also. Okay. After this structure of C program, I'll come to that part. Okay. Now, so another part in the this is right this part statements inside the main function. So what are these statements, right? So the next part is statements of a main function or any function. Okay, this is the input comma logical and output statements. These are the right input statement, logical statements means logic of the program, or output statements. All of them together they are called as statements. In general, we will call them as statements while writing the syntax. That's it. Now the next thing comes is return 0. So what is the significance of return 0? Right? The significance of return 0, significance means importance. Significance of return 0 is right, it tells compiler program execution is successful. Program execution is successful. This is what your compiler will tell. Sorry, successful. This is what compiler will tell, right? This is what compiler will tell when it executes return 0 in the program, right? And the last part is user defined functions, right? User defined functions, right? These are right set of statements, right? User, one second, user functions, user functions, right? User functions. These are set of statements, set of statements which perform which perform a particular task. Okay, which perform a particular task. Now you might be wondering, sir, we are not able to understand user function, function prototype. Those two things we are not able to understand. Please not to worry about it. We will go in detail into these during right during functions topic. When we are explaining or when we are starting up with functions, that time I will explain you in detail what is a function, what is a prototype, what is user defined function definition, function call. All of those things will be explained. Are we clear on this part? Now this completes structure of C language. Is everybody clear on? No, no. Sanjana is asking one question here, right? I will write down as a note here in the end, right? We cannot have, we cannot have, we cannot have, right? Two variables with same name. This is the note that everybody should remember. You cannot have a global variable and local variable with the same name. You can't have. This is not allowed in C. But in C++, there is a flexibility, right? We will discuss it when we are learning C++ in the future. But as of now, in C language, it is not allowed. Okay. Now, the next part we're going to start is execution flow of the program. Execution flow of program. Okay. So what exactly happens whenever you are executing a program? That we need to understand here. Okay. So first of all, let's start working on certain things here. Okay. Let's start working on certain things here. Sorry. Okay. Whenever you write a program, how do you save it? With what file extension? With what file extension would you save, right, the file name as, or C program file as? What is the file extension of a program? ಏನಂತ ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? How do you save it as? .c, right? So that program what you write, the program what you write is called as source code. It is called as source code, and the file extension of source code is .c. Okay. So the program what you write is called as source code, right? It is called as source code. Now this source code will be given as an input to something called as preprocessor. It's a part of the compiler. It is a part of compiler, okay, which we call it as preprocessor. Preprocessor. Okay. So what is the job of this preprocessor? Right? This preprocessor, first what does is it removes comments. The first job is it removes comments which are present in the program. It removes comment. Another job what it does is it replaces macros. It replaces macros with its values, right? You remember that hash define pi 3.14 we have discussed yesterday. This is the point, right? They will be removed, because if you have a comment in the program, the machine cannot understand the comment. So before you convert from high level to low level, you need to remove the comment, right? So that job is done by a preprocessor. The output which comes, the output which comes out of preprocessor is called as extended source code. Why do we call it as extended source code? Because the code will increase. If you remove comments, replacing of macros will happen, or it can be macro function also. Slightly the code length will get increased. That is the reason we call it as, right, extended source code. Okay. Then this extended source code will be given to something called as, right, compiler. This will be given to something called as compiler. Okay. This will be given as an input to something called as compiler. This compiler will generate the output called as .asm. .asm. .asm means assembly code. Now you remember in previous class we have discussed machine can understand only, right, low level language, and the program what we are writing is in high level language. Our program is present in high level language, and this assembly code which we get here, this assembly code what we get here, this is called as mid level language. It is not high level, not low level. It is a mid level, intermediate level code. So that code is generated by compiler, and that file's extension is .asm. Okay, that file extension is .asm. This assembly code is given as an input to something called as assembler, to something called as assembler. This assembler will convert the mid-level language to something called as low-level language, right? It is called as, it is called as, okay, it is called as .obj, right? .obj is nothing but object code. It is nothing but object code. This is nothing but object code. Now if you want these things, I'll write down here on this side. So this is called as high level language, where the user will write a program, and this is called as mid level language, mid level language. And the object code which we have received, this object code is called as low level language, low level language. Now, right, for example, this code what we have written here, it is written by the user. Okay, it is written by the user is writing that program, and that high level, from high level it will convert to low level. These are the steps. Now don't you think we need something from predefined library also? We need something from the library also, right? That data we call it as, right, predefined object code, predefined object code. And this is present in low level language only. For example, printf, right, scanf, all these built-in functions which we use, all the built-in functions are present inside this predefined object code. They are present in predefined object code, they are present in the library. Now what will happen here is, now this predefined object code and user defined object code, this is called as user object code, because the code was written by user. These two will be combined together by something called as, right, it will be combined by something called as a linker, right? There is something called as a linker. This will link, or it will combine user object code and predefined object code. It will combine these two to create a file called as .exe, to create a file called as .exe, and this is called as executable file. This is called as executable file. Okay, this is the execution flow of a program. Now if you want, I'll explain and I'll repeat again. Just observe. Okay, first, whatever the program is written by the user, it will be present in .c, high level language. It is present in high level language. Now that high level code is given to something called as a preprocessor. What will happen in the preprocessor? It will remove the comments of the program, comments present in the program, and it will replace macros by its values, right? And, right, and then what it does is, right, that extended source code, okay, is given as an input. It is given as an input to, right, compiler. This compiler will generate a mid-level code. Mid-level code, it is an intermediate, neither high level nor low level, which we call it as assembly code, right? Then that assembly code is given as an input, it is given as an input to, right, assembler, and this assembler will generate something called as a object code, and that object code is called as, right, low level language. It is present in the binary form. It is present in the binary form. Only machines can understand. Now, the user defined object code and the predefined object code both will be combined together by the linker to generate something called as a exe file, and this is called as executable file. We will double click that exe file and we will run the program. And this process, what is happening, this process what you is happening is called as compilation. This is what happens during compilation. The process of converting high level to low level is called as compilation process. Is everybody able to understand? Any doubts in this one? What does that predefined object code contains? See, Gavin, predefined object code contains, right, all those printf function definition, right, and scanf function definition, right, get char, right, or something called as a strings strcpy function, all built-in function definitions, all the function you predefined function definitions, they are present in the library, and those are present in the form of object code, which is nothing but binary form. So user cannot access predefined things. Only he can use it. He can use it, but he cannot check what is present inside that. So that is, right, that is kind of a way to keep the data protected.